Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right. Yeah, did Quinn Ewers turn down $8 million $inies? Holy crap. Also, does Nico need to run? We're going to get all into this. Now, let's start out with this Quinn Ewers. Supposedly, he was offered $8 million to stay one more season at a particular school. We're going to talk all about that. That's shocking to me. And this has been widely reported, and this would be a lot more money than he would probably make in the NFL. Right off the bat, that is. It says, according to 247's Chip Brown, Ewers received an $8 million offer from an unknown program to transfer from Texas, but he instead decided to declare for the draft. Per Brown, sources close to Ewers said he turned down the offer due in part to his desire to end his college career as a Longhorn. Now, Ewers earned about $6 million over the first 3 years, and $1.4 million his first year. He actually signed with Ohio State. Take note of that. Now, I've seen him ranked anywhere from 5 through 8 as far as QBs taken, which means he'll probably be late first round or early second round. Now, the amount of money that he's going to make in the NFL compared to this $8 million is a lot less. If you do a rookie contract late first round, you get about $13 million over 4 years. So, that's about $3 million a year. That's less than half that he'd get for staying 1 year at a school and be the starter. But here's the thing about NFL contracts. If you've followed them, what you'd want is not the first contract, it's the second contract, because the first one is capped. And they did that because a lot of busts happen where players would come in their first year, get a ton of money, and then they weren't any good. And you had these huge financial busts. And it made the veterans in the NFL very angry because they're the ones doing all the work, and then these little punks come in and get all this money, and that's what they considered them, and then they wouldn't produce. So they changed all that, and they did that through negotiations with the union and the NFL, collective bargaining. So it's not a problem if you cap it. But the second year, there is no cap. You can sign for whatever the crap the team's willing to pay you. And that's why you see all kinds of players that you think are very average in the NFL, quarterback-wise, that get $25 million a year contracts. So while, yes, he's given up probably $4 or $5 million this first year, he'll pick up an extra 20 when he signs that second contract if he's a solid quarterback. He didn't have to be great. He just has to, produce reasonably well. And think what a contract's going to be worth 5 years from now. Also realize quarterbacks are like any athlete. They can only play so long. So you're only going to get so many opportunities playing football, and you got to hope you don't get hurt. So if you do get to that second contract, that's the promised land. Not only do you get all the money, but you also get retirement and all kinds of other stuff out of the NFL, healthcare, you name it.
Comes in pretty handy down here, bub.
Oh,
So you need to get to that 5th year if you can. Now the big question, what school offered him that amount of money, number one? Number two, was it really that much? That's a lot. $8 million for that dude? I don't know. That seems kind of high to me. Anyway, let's try to figure out which school it was. I have a hunch. And this is Buckeye Scoop, and this is a really great channel on YouTube if you want to find out what's going on with Ohio State. They seem to have a really good connection with the athletic department. And this Kirk guy, he was an All-American there, I believe an offensive lineman.
Amazing run we are on right now. Could Quinn Ewers be coming back? I think that it's a fair question. If there is some portal shopping to be done by the team is not shy about spending money, and we've got a lot of money coming in now that we are in the Natty. So this roster, it's incredible this year. And what can we do to keep it at that spot? Do we go Julian Sayin, go after a portal quarterback like Quinn Ewers? I think Quinn would really benefit from coming here. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's something that's worth watching. Again, with this quarterback thing, these guys are all entering the draft. They're all entering the portal. And frankly, Carson Beck kind of set the template because he's going to make more money at Miami next year than he would have made in the NFL draft because, frankly, his stock is not that high, has a chance to rehab it, and has a huge chunk of money in his bank account. So,
all right. So I think it was Ohio State, personally. Remember, he got recruited there and actually signed with them his freshman year before he went to Texas. So that would make a lot of sense, him going up there. Now, I don't think it was $8 million. Here's what I think came out of this, and this is just my opinion. Probably his agent put that out there. Now, it might have been a $4 million offer, similar to what Carson Beck took down in Miami, which would make sense. I highly doubt it was $8 million. Now, could it have been that much? Of course, because as long as you get somebody before this April 7th, which is when the House versus NCAA settlement is going to be decided upon by a judge, which will probably pass, you can still NIL somebody whatever amount you want to do. It's just how much money you want to spend. And Ohio State doesn't mind spending it. And like the fellow there from Buckeye Scoop talked about, they got a lot of money coming in, and they spend it already pretty well. And these are estimates of what each school spends based on everything I could find on the internet. And Ohio State's number 4 at $20 million a year. And you can see Oregon's number 1. Texas is right there with them. And then Notre Dame. And you'll notice how many of these schools did really well in the 12-team playoff. And there was a couple of schools that also made it, which was Tennessee, Penn State, and Indiana. You need to be on this list if you want to make that 12-team, unless you're part of the tiny conferences that automatically get a bid just because they exist. If they win their conference, that'll probably get changed over time. But anyway, it really comes in handy, and Ohio State's right up there. Again, after April 7th, as long as the House versus NCAA goes through, you're not going to be able to go spend $8 million on one guy. If you do that, that's going to crush what money you have to spend, and it's going to be hard to justify $8 million NIL with a 7-person panel that's going to actually be in charge of that, that's going to say, that's too much. You wouldn't get that out there in real life. That's pay for play, which is allowed as long as it's under the revenue sharing, not with NIL. It's got to be legit, and you've got to show up and do your job based on that, which could be commercials or whatever. So while I do think Ohio State was the team that was offering big money for Quinn, I don't think it was $8 million. Again, just my opinion. Look, here's the thing you got to realize. There's a lot of people around these guys that want them to succeed because that means they succeed and make money too, whether it's an agent, whether it's a family member, whoever. And if you go and say, oh, well, he got offered $8 million, well, guess what the NFL owners might think of that. They're going to go, oh, crap. Some college team thought that highly of him. I'd better draft him early. And if he gets drafted earlier, he gets more money. So if I'm an agent, I'd definitely be putting that out there. Same with Lenora Sellers, Nico, all that kind of stuff. The people around them are going to say, hey, they're getting shopped. People are offering them money, and that gets them more money from the school they're at. Makes a lot of sense, which brings us into Nico. How'd you like that little segue? All right, so Nico's going to be under some pressure to take more hits or to run more, basically. If you run, you're going to get hit. And the thing about Nico is, look, he was a redshirt freshman, weighed about 215 pounds. You're in the SEC. You're going to get hit and hit hard. In one game, well, in the Ohio State game, they broke his helmet. So, and he ran a lot in that game. He was our only offense. Once Dillon went out and our top 2 wide receivers were out, we just didn't have much to throw at him. So Nico tried to do everything he could, and he played a darn tough game. I'll give him a lot of credit for that. He is not afraid. And if you'll remember why Hendon Hooker was so effective in this offense, Hendon ran a lot. Actually, probably more than I would have wanted him to. But, man, when he took off, good grief. Yeah, he was special. And he scared defenses to death. Well, we had a problem. Joe didn't like to run, Joe Milton. He was a good runner. He wasn't as good as Hendon, but he was fast at top end. And finally, when he started running, we won a few more games. But Nico is very elusive. The only tricky part is he's skinny and he's so tall. And those type of players take a long time to develop because they got to put on weight. When you've got those 2 guys like Lenora Sellers and DJ Lagway, they're built like a tank. They're 6'3", 240, and when they take off, you don't have to worry about them as much. They're not as lanky. They're not as skinny. Whereas Nico needs to put on more weight. And hopefully over the offseason, he'll put on another 15 pounds worth of muscle. He needs to be about 230, 240, somewhere in that neighborhood, just like Notre Dame's quarterback or Ohio State's quarterback. You need to be a good running quarterback, and you need to be able to take some punishment. And the bigger you are, the better you can. Talks about Nico's yardage, 2,600, 19 touchdowns. Of course, that didn't touch where Cam Ward's or Sanders, who were over 4,000 yards and more touchdowns. Now, a big part of that, too, realize that had to do with the fact we were a running team last year, and that's because that's what the defense gave us. If you'll remember how the defenses were set up against us, it was a 3-3-5, and they finally figured out to stop the big plays that we were having so much success with. They just put an umbrella over the defense. They took 5 secondary guys, put them over the top, and then 3 linemen, 3 linebackers. And what that does, it invites you to run. It opens up the run really well. That's why Dillon just killed it. Plus, Dillon was a great runner. 1,500 yards, 20-some-odd touchdowns, SEC Player of the Year. And so Josh Heupel and Nico just took what the defense gave them. And we went 10-2 in the regular season, made the playoff. So, you know, it's not like it wasn't successful, but because those defenses open it up for Nico to run, I'm telling you, if he runs, you're not going to be able to stop the Vols effectively. You just won't, because you don't have the numbers in the box to handle that. We've got our 5-6 blockers up front. We've got 1-2 running backs, plus Nico takes off. The numbers don't match up for you. You're going to get burned, and burned bad, 10, 15 yards over and over and over. So what that would do, if Nico starts running next year, they're going to have to come up and participate in the run, which would be your secondary. Once the secondary comes up, your wide receivers run by them, boom, you hit them deep, and you burn them. Again, Hendon was fantastic at that. I would have had Hendon for the next 30 years if it would have been my choice. And he would have retired when they quit allowing a walker out on the field. That's when I would have said, okay, you can retire, Hendon. You know, it's probably long enough. Realize Hendon was a 4th and 5th and 6th year senior. I think he was 24 years old when he finally left Tennessee, whereas Nico's 20 years old. And that makes a big, big difference. You know, Hendon, his freshman and sophomore year at Virginia Tech was not near as good as he was his senior and super senior year at Tennessee. So I don't think it's fair to compare the two. I really don't. Because I promise you, if Nico was on his 4th or 5th year, he would be a nightmare to deal with. We'll never see that because he'll be in the NFL by that time. I think we get 1 more year out of him, maybe 2, because we can probably pay him enough money he might want to stay. But we'll see. If he has a really good year next year, he's gone. And I wouldn't blame him. Anyway, I do think Nico needs to run. He needs to put on some more weight, and he will become a very effective, dangerous person.
That's right. Nice, man. I am dangerous.
Absolutely. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, boom, boom. Hit this little button right there. Help you get my videos. Will not cost you a dime. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.